The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 21st day of September, 2022. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House, One Communications, and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman. She's Sherry Vanderpool, and Maya Palacio will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Sherry, is today the first day of fall, or is that the 23rd of September?
I believe it's the 23rd.
Yeah, I think you could be right. I think you could be right. Anyway, happy Wednesday. Well, what's your favorite? I mean,
it's a hump day. It's one day closer to Friday, which it's one of my favorite days.
Oh.
And then the day to play is music. This seems to be my pocket right here. We'll see today. But I haven't seen you in like a week, Jamal. Let's just start there.
And before that, it was like 2, 3, and I was like, I missed you. I missed you.
Yeah, because I have receipts that support that.
Why would you be talking about private messages that are shared between adults? I mean, what kind of privacy measures do we have? Like, come on.
No, he's pulling the privacy card. Okay.
I don't know what's wrong with this lady. David, Karen Simmons says good morning to the age. Good morning to you, Aunt Karen. Aunt Karen, actually, so let's talk about it. So I actually said something wrong yesterday. So we had a trivia on the Daily Hour Facebook page that majority of people got wrong, and we're going to do a giveaway sometime this week. But the answer was Phil. The question basically was asked, which of the following did not attend college in Huntsville? And all thought it was me. And some of you,
really?
I'm not going to call you cheaters, right? Because Larry said, no, you done your research. Some of you went on my LinkedIn page to see if I had it on there, and I don't. I don't. So you went that route. You know how research is in Bermuda. You try to find information and you just can't find things. Well, that's how it was with finding info. But yeah, I did. When I first left Bermuda, I did come to go to Huntsville, Alabama, and I was at J.F. Strait State Technical College. And Phil did not do Alabama. I don't even think Phil's visited Alabama as a state. So, yeah, Sherry and I had the privilege of being in Huntsville.
Many years,
long before me. But yeah,
years between. Yeah. Not long, but it was some years in between. What year did you go, Jamal?
2001.
That's the year that I graduated from my master's with that. But yeah, okay, but it wasn't that long. I graduated in 97. Right? Yeah,
you graduated with your master's in 97?
No,
college?
My undergrad at Huntsville. I graduated my master's in 2001.
I hadn't even graduated high school in 97.
Wait, let me catch my finger. You can't blur that out.
Yeah, you can't do that. Anyway, David Michael Wilson says, good morning to the age family and friends. Have a wonderful Wednesday. I just wanted to also thank you now in particular for sending healing vibes. Yes, I don't know what happened, but yes, sending you continued healing vibes and hope all is well. He says it's out of hospital and been much better. Yes, we definitely want you to take care of yourself, and on behalf of everyone, stay well, my friend. Headley and Stevenson, our good friend, Precious, you two are. Well, I mean, give her a compliment.
Morning, heads.
Anyway, greetings, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome Robert Stubbs from Seed Bermuda. We're talking Bermuda's debt and Texas. This is an important conversation, folks. I said this is an important conversation. The Daily Play is music today. So, Sherry, Sencha, Larry, and Phil. You know what happens when people start getting the answers. I go and purchase a new game and trying to make it more difficult. So, just if those other three are not tuned in, you let them know that I have responded to them in a new way. Sherry?
And what happened? I missed yesterday. So what happened?
Yeah. Larry tried to say, and Aunt Karen was in the comments taking his side. He tried to say, he guessed two answers. Oh, 2018, 2019. I was like, quiet. Is it 2018? I'm like, but if you're in the SATs, you can't shout out like which you gotta choose one. Anyway, Aunt Karen says, no, that's how you process information, Larry.
You're such a stickler, Jamal.
I'm just saying, y'all trying all these tricks in the game. So there we go. Purchase my new game. We start today. But look, we've got an important conversation to have, honestly, folks. Not sure how many of the audience is on Twitter, but Twitter is probably next level Bermuda. Why do I say next level? Because it's probably the most engaging form of social media there is, especially for young Bermudians. And I feel like there's between Bermuda Twitter and Bermuda Facebook, there's such a big disconnect. And, you know, I definitely know Maya would have a lot more on this when we bring her in, right? Because she caters to an audience that's really on Instagram and Twitter, per se. Right. That's not to say she ignores us old people on Facebook. My point is, and there's some old people on Twitter. We've got Charles H. Jefferson II, he's on Twitter. I mean, older people. He's saying, good morning, TH. Are we independent yet? Traveling Charlie says Bermuda Twitter as well. But this is an important conversation because if it's one thing I've realized, and Phil was the one member of the TDH team who was on Twitter handling, you know, the conversation and going, you know, having the conversation, not handling, but having the conversation yesterday. So what was the topic? It was independence. And you know me, folks, I'm a bit mature now, Sherry, so I don't enter these debates online. You know, I'm growing up. I witnessed them.
Well, good for you, Jamal.
Yeah. But I realized, Sherry, and maybe, you know, I mean, you're much older than me and mine.
I was like, easy.
Well, no, I'm just saying what I noticed yesterday, and this is for the audience. There seems to be a huge disconnect, and the question of the morning is pretty much how do we bridge the disconnect between generations of Bermudians? Like, how do we bridge that gap? Like, what can we do to bridge it? Because there are people. This is what I see. There are older Bermudians who seem there's a split between older Bermudians where some believe in independence, some don't. Then there's this Generation X kind of millennial that is all for it. Like, we should be independent. Why are we stuck on being under the UK? And then there's Generation Z, right? And I hate like grouping people, but that's just what it seems online. But then there's Generation Z that just seems like outside of Ryan Robinson, Parent Chief, that they literally do not understand the point of wanting independence. And I just think the one thing that tells me our education system has failed, and when I speak about our education system, I'm not talking about schools. I'm talking about parenting. I'm talking about families, community. That's education. I cannot stand when people act like education is just the institution of school. Education is all of us. Education is the daily hour every morning. We have failed when people can still in 2022 make insulting comments about we're going to end up like Jamaica.
Yeah.
Jamaica's kicking Bermuda's ass. Don't let GDP, which most of you don't even understand, which our guest today will probably break down for you. Don't let that fool you. Don't be fooled by what you've been told. Look, let's be honest. Bermuda's had an arrogance. At least when I was in Huntsville in school, Bermudians out there and their body is fancy, flashy cars, have the best of everything, party and eat and drink.
Apartments.
Best apartment. We lived lavish in college, right? We were on these levels. acting like we're better than people from islands to the south of us. As our guest today is going to show, folks, things have changed. And instead of insulting people from islands to the south of us, what we can do is what some of them done from us. They learned from us, and now we need to learn from them. But the insults are from such an uneducated position that I think we can admit that we have failed Generation Z as far as education. And this is not to say we failed them because they don't agree with independence. We failed them because they don't understand the conversation around independence. And it was a young lady that responded to Phil yesterday saying, I apologize. And he said, no, you ain't got nothing to apologize for. He told her. So question of the morning, how do we bridge the disconnect between generations of Bermudians? What are your thoughts, Sherry? Yeah, bring that psychologist, social mindset to us this morning, Sister Sherry.
I don't care. No, I'm just saying. No, I was gonna actually say the same thing in regard to taking education from the education needs to not only happen on Twitter. Was my mindset. The education needs to happen through conversations. So when you talk about Twitter, and good to you laugh just a little bit, for me it's too real time, right? So for somebody older, it may be too much going on. But it's busy. So we have to take that generation off Twitter at times to have these conversations with people that they're not going to find them in that space. And having conversations about our history, about just everything that can be about Bermuda. So you have a different perspective to take on Twitter. To then have these conversations with an open perspective or a concrete perspective because you've already had a conversation offline. But it's unfortunate or fortunate, I guess, in the sense that a lot of people just get their information off of social media.
Well, you did see that Generation Z is an article saying that they TikTok is now their Google or something like that. And then the same report said 1 in 5 of the stories on TikTok proved to be false. I just saw that yesterday, actually. But again, this is not taking shots at any generation. Let me just keep that clear. Just a report. But go ahead, Sherry. Sorry.
No, and that's the stuff that we need to be able to dispel. But having this conversation, so it all depends on who's in your household, who's in your life, and who's around you that can help you move the conversation off social media to have an in-depth, informed conversation. Besides just researching stuff on TikTok. Again, no judgments in here, but who Google's TikTok, Jamal?
I mean, I just, it's not for me. I have a TikTok page, but it's not for me. So
I have TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, all of it. I'm probably Instagram and Facebook. And I get enough information off of their TikTok. I mean, Twitter again, like the whole back and forth. Oh, like I can't keep up with that. I could just about keep up with the TDH WhatsApp group.
Well, I'll say this much. My favorite form, and I've said this over and over on this show like a broken record, but if you're tuning in for the first time, LinkedIn, yeah, she knows it. LinkedIn is my favorite social media platform. LinkedIn's my favorite social media platform simply because that's the place where my life is built around my companies, my businesses. So that's the place where I feel I can get the most for them, right? Connecting with people that are going to embrace what I'm trying to engage. Twitter is my second. Why Twitter? Because I love to know how people think. I like to see people's thoughts written out, right? I love to read people's thoughts. I probably dislike Instagram the most. And that's not to say Instagram's bad, but I feel like Instagram has made everyone believe that life is easy. I feel like it's made people believe that they have, young people have to have a certain amount of likes or they take their pictures down. I don't like what it's done to young people, but that's just me. But how can we bridge the disconnect between generations? And I'm not saying it just because she's part of this show, but if you remember Maya, I'm going to use Maya's first appearance on the Daily Hour when we first started back in 2020. and she can correct me later if I'm wrong, but I remember her saying, one of the things that she wanted to do through her platform was, get young people in her generation to understand politics a bit more, because she realized when she went to Canada that she knew more about Canadian politics than Bermuda, right? And so she wanted to kind of bridge that disconnect, that gap right there, in on a political landscape. So I think she's actually an inspiration, or a person that we can look to, who's found a need to close that gap. But what are some other gaps? How do we bridge that disconnect? And we do have some comments coming through. Traveling Trotty says, preach, Jamal, education takes place everywhere. Indeed, it does. And Greg Toll says, absolutely, there's a gap. Converse through TDH, Bermuda Youth Connect, discussions outside of social media resources, civics classes. This is true. Yes, to right. She says the number one search engine is TikTok. It's interesting.
Wow.
And again, it's not a criticism. I don't think it's just generations change, things change. Again, when I was first started college, there was no Facebook, there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram, there was no Twitter, there was no LinkedIn, right? So things change, and our majority of my information that I get, like if we're looking for topics for this show on a global, I go on LinkedIn. I look at my LinkedIn news feed. So I'm reading business stories that are applicable to me. So what do I read every day that I don't talk about, that most people don't know? There's layoffs taking place at big corporations that we're probably not going to feel for years to come. But I will know about that because of the stuff that I'm reading in the place that I am. Maybe there are things on TikTok that people see today that will play out years from now.
Maybe. I haven't ventured on TikTok other than during the pandemic when, there was dance stuff. So I just really haven't looked at it past making videos like that. In all honesty, I'll go to YouTube first.
Sam Cat Place says change is uncomfortable, but unfortunately, some think education and research is all about what comes from someone else's mouth instead of actually opening books or going online to proper platforms. Interesting. I think reading's an important part. Karen Simmons and Charles Jeffers for you, Sherry.
Have the courage to have conversations on multiple platforms online and in person can help bridge the disconnect between the generations of Bermuda. I want to speak face to face, not online.
Well, here's the thing. And I'm glad she said this. So let's be honest. So we started the show 2020, and I want to say Karen's been a day one since jump.
Right.
This is a true story of how you bridge a disconnect. Now, we may be different in terms of generations, like thought. She's an educator, I'm not, right? But there was a connection because her nephew and I literally have been best friends since birth. Never didn't know that, right? And so then the TDH community, right? We had one of our get-togethers, and she actually joined for both, and it was very encouraging to get to know her. And there was a joke, and I hope she don't mind me telling this, right? So we were on the tour with Titan Tours or something, and so there was a joke told on the bus where I think it might have been. It seems like a Phil thing. I'm throwing Phil on the bus, so Phil must have been like, "Oh, that's such a Karen move," and she says, "Can we choose another name, please?" And it didn't even hit me, right? But I say that because, then Phil, Larry, and Aunt Karen had actually worked together. Different generations, but disconnect through education. It's a healing. It's a vibe. It's glued. So I think there's so many different ways that we can bridge the gap, whether it's being in the same office spaces, right? Young people are coming into office spaces. Don't treat them like, oh, these young off the street people who don't know anything. Meet them where they are sometimes. And guess what? They in turn may meet you where you are, because I'm pretty sure when Larry and Phil started teaching, she didn't treat them a certain way. As well, at least they don't act like these guys don't act like she did.
Right. Even for me as a social worker, you still have to have some level of interest in what is going on in these different generations in order to even connect. So I try to stay as current as I can in some aspect, because if you're trying to get a child to trust you, It's better to have a conversation of, oh, did you hear about the rapper that passed away? And being able to extend that conversation more into different things. So I always think, picking nuggets.
But that's another good point, because you guys know me. During my morning jogs, I actually listened to yesterday's thing of the Breakfast Club. So sometimes they speak about things I still don't know who Little the Baby is, right? And
Little the Baby, or just Little Baby?
It was Little the
Yeah. I don't know if it's Little Da Baby, because I think it's Little Baby and Da Baby. It's two different people.
Oh.
Tune in. See what happens over here.
Oh, so basically I'm oh. Okay, so baby person, right? Baby person must have had a concert, right? And during this concert, he must not have showed up, and people were rioting. And I'm like, why are they rioting over this person? That whatever. This is not Michael Jackson or like whatever, but generations, right? Different generations. And so I realized, Jamal, you're not in that space anymore. You won't understand that.
And these are the TikTok, Instagrams, and all of these Snapchat kids that have attached themselves to these young people.
None of you all better clip that thing that Sherry corrected me and all. Don't do that. Don't.
Yeah, no, we're gonna do that because it is two different people.
Don't do that. How do we bridge the gap between generations of Bermudians?
I just did.
Intergenerational meetups offline. This is helpful. Charles H. Jefferson II says we must respectfully engage with the younger generation without judgment. Both sides should be open to hearing and understanding the perspectives of the other. None of us know it all. This is key. We have to, and I think that was Phil's approach yesterday, right? We have to engage in a manner where we are willing to accept that we may not know it all. We may not be right. We have to approach it in a manner where we can learn something from the other. Rosalind Famous says, my niece told me yesterday that TikTok is her go-to now, even for news. This doesn't scare me. You know what this tells me? This tells me that when we have Robert Stubbs on today and he's dropping information about Bermuda's debt, I mean, he's speaking about the tax situation. This just means to me that we need to make clips of this and put it on TikTok. That's what it tells me. Sometimes we have to go where the people are, because I know Mr. Stubbs is on Facebook. I'm not sure of any other platform. But Facebook, you're literally speaking to a generation of Bermudians who have their minds made up. You would probably have, and this is no advice to him, I'm no expert, but we'd probably actually catch more fish if you throw the bait in a space where they're hungrier, where they're more open to something new. So let's bring Maya in before you get me in trouble. And don't not see Maya headset is just the see. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking. You know what? Let's bring in. Yeah. Maya.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is a Daily Hour News Break brought to you by People's Pharmacy, and I'm Maya Palacio.
Aren't you proud of me?
Why?
It's not Little Da Baby. It's Little Baby and Da Baby.
Yes, those are two separate rappers.
Thank you.
Little Baby and Da Baby. And then there's Little Nas X. And anyway, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. But I'm glad you're proud of me, Maya.
Maya,
the ill person.
Maya, I haven't been into rep since Lil Jon and Ludacris was headlining concerts. My apologies, but anyway, you know who those people are, right, Maya?
I do know Lil Jon.
You know Ludacris?
Of course, I know Ludacris.
Okay. Lil Jon.
Skirt me, Maya.
Sorry, when you said Lil Jon, my mind went to a song that he sang, and I didn't even hear you say Ludacris, but I probably know way more Ludacris than Lil Jon. So.
Okay, to the window, walls, all that stuff. Okay, cool. So look, let's talk to us. I mean, are you considered Generation Z?
I think I am Gen Z. I think Terry told me that last time. I was like, oh, I thought I was millennial. She's like, no, you're like on the cusp of Gen Z. And I was like, oh, like at the very end of Gen Z pool.
What year were you born?
1997.
Yeah, I think I think Z is 81 to 80 or 81 to 95, 96. So I think, you're just on the thing. But again, those things they're weird to me anyway. But that said, what do you make of it? Like, I mean, the stories that Gen Z goes to TikTok for news. What are you literally changed the way news is done in Bermuda, whether you know it or not, but you changed the way people receive news on Instagram, social media. Like you've literally gone to the people. Like traditionally, we just expected people to come to us, but you went and served up some new dishes in new spaces. Like, what are your thoughts on how we can bridge that disconnect, close that gap based on what you've done already?
Honestly, one thing I've been learning even more recently continuing to do news is that obviously your audience is going to grow with you. So you have to change things up and how you connect with the audience below you. Right now I'm actually trying to get the name of this app that I had and I deleted it and I should not have. Begin to the D, if anyone knows it, like drop it in. I just asked my friend for it, but I was talking to some of the high school students and this is kind of what they're using right now, apart from TikTok. And I was just like, okay, I got to get on this one now because there's always something new, right? But when it comes to getting your news on TikTok, that is so common. Like even me, I send you guys some TikToks in the group chat that we have that I've seen on news. But personally, I'll see it and then I'll be like, I'll go to Google or Google Scholar and then type in what I kind of just read or listened to, and then I'll see whether or not it. Thank you, Discord. Thank you.
Teray wouldn't it? Teray wouldn't it?
I was like, I had this app and then I completely deleted it because my phone was like, you don't have enough space, and I was like, okay, fair. But I was like, yes. So Discord is something that I know that students have been using. Actually, universities use it now too to even do their classes on, and also used for gaming. But you could literally just be watching anything, doing anything, and someone would just pop in and watch it with you, start communicating, and it's just like that type of app. So it almost reminds me of Clubhouse. I don't know if anyone had that app at the time, that audio one, but instead it's also video as well, and you could like obviously type as well. So
yeah, I heard about Discord when we started this show, because I attend the stream town halls Sunday nights, and I remember hearing about it back then, but never heard of it since. So I didn't know if it was still around, but I knew that we didn't have an audience over there. But that's interesting. All right, let's get to the news. What's your top story, Maya? What you got for us?
Well, top story is actually the police are still investigating. There was a chase on Monday in the evening time around after 8 p.m. There was a motorcycle that was chasing a car, and here's what we know so far. The chase and the pursuit ended near the junction of Parliament and Church Street. When the cycle rode away, the rider was a black male wearing a face mask, bandana with a skull print, a dark-colored helmet, and a black and white t-shirt. Police are particularly interested in speaking with a taxi operator who was driving his taxi in the area of Sperling Hill and may have had to take evasive action as a result of his incident. Anyone who may have witnessed the incident has any information is asked to call 211.
I guess my only question is a bike chasing a car. And maybe the police noticed they're not just sharing it, but did the person on the bike have a weapon while someone was running from him in a car?
There wasn't much said other than the motorcycle pursuing a silver-colored motor car.
Okay.
That was all the information that was given.
And the taxi was in the mix somewhere.
Somewhere he had to be, as I said, that he must have taken evasive action. Again, not very descriptive as to what the action was.
Yeah. That's interesting. What else you got for us? Well,
leading off of that, talking about taxi, we have something from the Bermuda Taxi Owner Operations Association has released a press release stating their issues that they want to bring to the public and want to make known to the public. They did say that they are prepared for any criticism and pushback that they will receive for, letting the public know any issues that they have. However, they believe it is important to share with the public what they're dealing with in order to continue moving toward what they hope will happen. So here are some of the things that they're requesting the government. They're requesting a 20% increase on the meter in addition to assurances of a rate increase every 3 years. In the press release, they did mention that they haven't had an increase in over 7 years, and they've been in communications, but nothing has quite happened. In addition, they're also requesting that the evening surcharge on the standard rate 1 starts at 9 p.m. instead of at midnight. And they also mentioned how it used to be 10 p.m. like in the 1990s, but they pushed it to midnight. And they also stated something about fuel charge as well. Yeah, so they're asking for fuel charges to be like better for them. They understand that some gas stations have giving them discounts when they use cash, but they are trying to get a better grasp on that, as obviously most of their monies will go toward that, they're filling up their vehicles every day, sometimes twice a day or every other day. So that's what they mentioned that they would love to happen. And they closed out by just saying that they spent many years requesting a lot of action from government, and they're just hoping for some sort of better service for them.
I think it's a tough one because cab drivers have a point. They have a point, like no increase, and they're struggling. There's no visitors right now. They're struggling. On the consumer side, obviously the consumers are saying things like what Amir Hartman just said: taxi increase. They need to service the public first. So I think it's an interesting one, and I wish them all the best. What else you got for us, man?
Yeah, they also did mention there's like 50 taxis that are off the road, and they kind of want to know what's going on with that too. But yeah, there's a lot of things happening in the taxi realm in this space, so just stay up with that. I might be talking about it some more this week. On other news, there was a total of 289 incoming S1 students between the Berkeley Institute and Cedar Bridge as they entered into the new program that is happening right now. And following the retirement of Mrs. Michelle Simmons from the Senate, the governor has actually appointed the new Miss Karen Ball as an independent senator. So that's something to look out for in government as well.
Oh, I guess. Who is she?
That wasn't much information given on her.
I'm not saying it to be rude. I just not, I knew that Miss.
I know, I saw it too, and I just I don't know who this person is, so I'm gonna do some diving into who she is.
She was a former principal of Berkeley, right, Miss Michelle Simmons, and so you know people. So I'm just what's your claim to the Senate? Anything else? Fiona's coming up.
Yes, the weather. So today's actually looking pretty okay, like weather-wise, still sunny, maybe a little bit of breaks in the shower, but it's looking from weather.bm this morning that the major hits are going to actually hit us on Friday now instead of Thursday. But just be wary, everyone, just be attentive, because last night you may have heard some thunder, you may have seen some lightning. I definitely did. And so just pay attention to that, but it's looking like Friday, definitely right now.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Maya, Sherry, you got days of the year for us?
Yes, I actually have two, but they're short. World Gratitude Day and International Day of Peace. So World Gratitude Day, this day aims to remind us of the importance of expressing gestures and thanks and appreciation. Understandably, sometimes we get caught up in our busy lives and neglect to show how grateful we are for the people around us. Many people believe that once you commit a simple act of kindness for someone, you don't need to manifest that kind of kindness repeatedly. But if you do, it makes the world a better place. After all, it's your world and you have to live in it. And the International Day of Peace is devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace, both within and among all nations and people.
Yeah, I want peace in every aspect of my life. Work. Hey, Maya, thank you so much.
You guys tomorrow.
Tomorrow. No, honestly, work, man. You spend so much of your time at work. Is one place that should be peaceful. Folks, do not go anywhere. We've got a very important guest coming up, Mr. Robert Stubbs. We're talking about a topic we talk about on this show a lot. We've had Craig Simmons on a number of times. We have Robert Stubbs. We're talking about our debt, Bermuda's debt. We're talking about taxes. Don't go anywhere. This is a conversation that you want to be a part of. Let's engage. Stick with us.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's, I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dandytown Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
Hey TDH community, we're excited to announce our first private shopping experience just for you. There will be huge discounts, giveaways, specials, and more. Not a member? Register today at thedailyhour.com.
All righty, thank you so much. Welcome back to the big show. Sherry Vanderpool, I'm Jamel Hartman. It's the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House One Communications, Windows, and People's Pharmacy. As you saw just now, don't forget, just go on the website right now, register to be a part of the TDH community. You see taxi drivers, they want their rates going up, everything's going up. If you're looking for an opportunity to save, you want to join our private shopping event, the first one taking place October 3rd, many more to come. You want to get some toilet paper or maybe some paper towel on the cheap, sign up, folks. I'm just saying, if the pandemic taught us anything, people will go out and rush to get toilet paper. That is a necessity.
I still don't understand that.
It's not for us to understand. It's for us to appreciate. That's what people want. If you have
TikTok made us do it.
Folks, okay, I forgot to mention earlier with Maya. They're frying chicken in NyQuil right now, folks. I'm just saying. That's what I saw. That they're telling people not to do it. But anyway, make sure you subscribe to our website, dailyhour.com, for updates, promotions, prizes, and more. Or if you're on the go, please don't watch us while you're driving. You can listen to us, though. Just download the BCG Radio app, available for both Android and Apple devices. Without further ado, let's bring on our guest for the day. We've got Robert Stubbs. Mr. Stubbs, if you don't know, he's a gentleman that dedicates his time to sharing information, well-researched information on Bermuda's economic situation, its debt, the taxes, and I just hope that we all embrace the information, question the information, and engage this conversation as much as possible. Let's bring Mr. Stubbs in. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No problem. No, but actually, see, we have people on the board of parent company and people in the audience, and they actually were like, you need to have Robert Stubbs on. So you obviously have people that are paying attention to you, people that value what it is that you share. But before we get started, those who may not know, who is Robert Stubbs and what is Seed Bermuda?
Okay, so Seed Bermuda first. So we're a think tank. We were established in 2019. But it was really based off of economic research, Bermudian economic research, that I started producing in 2015 and started advocating for certain policy changes in 2016. Unfortunately, the political actors under both the previous government and the current government weren't responding. So that's really the impetus for. The initial impetus for starting SEED. So SEED stands for Social, Economic, Environmental Development, which internationally is a catchphrase for sustainable development. So we're not just interested in turning Bermuda around economically and resolving this crisis, but actually longer term, what we want to see is Bermuda placed on a real trajectory to meaningful sustainable development, which is a lot of work, a long ways off, but that's the ultimate goal. So what we as a think tank, where we provide public education and awareness, we do research and analysis, we advocate for certain changes both in the private sector and in the public sector, and much like yourselves in the media, we also play an important watchdog role and accountability, which makes it a testy relationship with ourselves and the policymakers. But I think also the other major important point for the public to know about SEED is I know a lot of the criticism at the moment. Obviously, it's been most damaging to the government of the day. But we have been critical of the OBA in the past. It is a nonpartisan group. We need to be nonpartisan to achieve what our ultimate aims. And so we're what's called civil society originated. So we're placed in Bermuda where we're not aligned with either the government sector or the business sector. We're like BEST or say Green Rock.
You're aligned with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Internationally, civil society and the media, if you're doing your job right. I mean, luckily, I think in Bermuda they're much better than elsewhere. But yeah, we're much more aligned with the public interest.
Indeed. And just
Political actors.
before we get into the conversation, just explain, because these terms get thrown around a lot, and you may have heard me say it earlier. Like Bermudians for generations have bragged about, oh, we're the richest country in the world per capita, this and that. Just explain, what does gross domestic product, GDP, and debt per capita mean?
Okay, so GDP first. GDP is just it's a measure of how big your economy is, and there's a lot of criticism of the measure. There are all kinds of ideas for changing that measure. But anyway, it's a measure of how big your economy is, and there's basically three ways of measuring it. In Bermuda, we use two of them. So you can either measure total income achieved in the country, both in the corporate sector and in the personal sector, households, in a given year. You can also measure sales, national sales, which should be roughly the same. The third measure is actually production. But it's a total measure of the size of our economy, what we're producing. And it is in Bermuda at the moment. It's hopefully it's just slightly north of 7 billion.
And what? And go ahead, Sherry. I have some. This conversation will go. Like I said, like Craig Simmons, you're gonna have to come back once. So,
you sure?
Go ahead.
Okay. What is Bermuda's current debt according to your research, and why should Bermudians be concerned about it?
Yeah, so the data I had produced and put out on Facebook was the debt. If you look at the government's books, 3.35 billion. That does not include all the unfunded liabilities, which again is a very alarming figure. But the government debt of 3.35 billion divided by the population takes us just over 52,000, which yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I mean, it needs to be said that we can afford, because we are a wealthier economy, we can afford to sustain a higher debt than these other places. But the level that we've gotten to is ridiculous. The problems with it is that this debt needs to be serviced. We need to pay out interest on this. Our debt in particular is held by foreigners. So when we pay out that money at the moment, it's 125 million a year, which is just below what we spend on education. It could quite easily head up as interest rates go up, and we're forced to refinance it over time. That money is leaving the country because our debt's held by foreigners. And as we pay down the debt, the problem for us is going to be with all economies, particularly us, with the debt being owned by foreigners, is that money is being spent by the government in paying down the debt, and it's our economy. It's actually in terms of GDP measured by income and sales and all of that, it's actually contractionary. So when we do pay it down, it needs to be paid down gradually. We can't pay it off in big lump sums. But yeah, that's the problem with it, is that it's gotten to a level now where our debt servicing is alarming levels.
That's unfortunate.
Wow. Very unfortunate.
As compared to similar jurisdictions, and we shared it just now, but what concerns you most about Bermuda's debt?
Well, the biggest problem, I think, is we are not following through on the recommendations of the Fiscal Responsibility Panel. The IMF have made very, very similar recommendations. The United Nations has expressed concern with our low revenues at the moment, and neither party, the OBA or the PLP, have addressed the issue of comprehensive tax reform, and that ultimately is what what we need to see. So yeah, here you've got government revenues. So the one thing, you know, I have a lot of criticisms of the former OBA's finance minister's policies, but the one thing he did do was he did raise revenue by about $200 million. So when the OBA left power, we had government revenue to GDP of 17%. And in the tax reform of 2018, the terms of reference stated they had a goal to raise revenue to 20% of GDP. They were basically in line with what the fiscal responsibility panel were recommending. And unfortunately, in 2019, you know, the recommended changes that were being implemented, and it all fell apart. It wasn't being managed well. There were a few things that were implemented, but we did not raise the revenue that we needed to. We hardly raised any at all. And of course, then the pandemic hit. So as of 2020, our revenue to GDP got down to 14%, and the United Nations has expressed concern that it is so low. So a lot of Bermudians are going to be upset that, you know, this is basically saying our government is too small. But what we need to do is raise revenue. And Craig has mentioned this before. There's plenty of savings in Bermuda that unfortunately is leaving the country to the tune of I think it's $2 billion a year. But we need to raise the revenue, and at the same time, you know, there's concern in the private sector that government is not giving good value for money and is not being adequately managed. You know, all the criticisms of the SAGE Commission. So in conjunction with raising revenue and comprehensive tax reform, we need to engage in meaningful reform of the government sector and its financial management, which is it's a huge task. Huge task.
Very huge. And leads me to, what does Bermuda need to do to address its debt problem? I know you mentioned a few things, but
okay, so yeah, we talked about the fact that our revenues are too low overall. We need to raise revenue. So obviously, some companies in Bermuda need to be paying more. Jamal, do you have the third chart up there? This is the other big problem that we have. That the fiscal responsibility panel wants us to address this. The IMF wants us to address this. Our tax system, because of the way we're taxing people and companies here, is highly regressive. So the current government is going to argue that they have eliminated payroll tax from the very lowest bracket, but I mean that's only going to be taking that last bar on the left down to about 18%. Yeah, so the bars are taxes paid to the Bermuda government as a percentage of income, right? And we're splitting Bermuda out into 6 different income groups, right? So this was last done in 1998 by these consultants in the United States, a think tank and KPMG. And what they're doing here is they're looking at the 3 principal forms of taxation in Bermuda: land tax, payroll, and customs duty. And they got the data from the Ministry of Finance. They calculated how much each household was paying towards this. Technically, this is tax incidence. The land tax is being passed on by the property owner to the tenant. I mean, that's the assumption they make. That's the assumption economists make. But anyway, because we're taxing payroll and we're not taxing capital income, we are forced to be more reliant upon customs duties. We're forced to have higher consumption taxes, and we are not taxing capital income, which includes rents from buildings, residential, commercial. It includes financial assets, income off of bonds, stocks. The higher income people hold much greater quantities of the capital. So you have a situation where not only are you more reliant upon your consumption taxes, which are highly regressive, but the higher income people are having their payroll taxed, but not their capital income taxed. Right? So it's very unfair to lower income people. I mean, one basis of a good tax system is it's got to be fair, and most people would suggest that at least higher income people need to be paying at least the same amount, if not more.
So what do you say? Because as I'm reading this, I know in the United States at least, people will say this is almost socialist, right? Like that's kind of the pushback they would give. So what would you say to something like that in preparing it? Because what you're saying is basically you want a more fair system, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I know what we have now is sort of the. I'm not an extreme socialist by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, I don't think that would be very good either. But what we have now is the extreme opposite, right? And it is bad government. We have a government that's not making the kind of investments that it needs in its people and its infrastructure. We have a tax system where lower income people are paying significantly more as a percentage of their income towards taxation than higher income people. And you know, this reluctance to adopt a personal income tax in Bermuda, we're all paying a price for this, because we also have this situation. Brian O'Hara has spoken about this publicly, but we have a situation in Bermuda with Americans that, to my knowledge, the American government is the only government in the world that taxes their citizens regardless of where they reside. So if you're an American living in Bermuda, working in Bermuda, you're paying federal income tax, right? And federal income tax, the US government will allow you to offset the taxes that you're paying wherever you are, if you're paying a personal income tax. If you're paying a payroll tax, they don't allow that. So US citizens in Bermuda are paying not just payroll tax in Bermuda, they're also paying federal income tax to the US government on their income, right? So in actual fact, if you looked at Americans in the high income bracket, they're probably the one group of people who are paying the most tax. They're not paying all of it to the Bermudian government. They're probably the most highly taxed people in Bermuda, even more than the low-income Bermudians.
Yeah.
And we have lost significant business because of this. Apparently, a number of insurance companies have moved to the United States, their operations to the United States, and this is the principal reason why.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if Bermuda had an income tax versus the payroll tax, then it would be less harsh because it would be offset. That's what you said, correct?
Well, you're capturing all income, so you're including capital income. The higher income people will be then paying more. But I mean, the other thing to talk very briefly about this is the other sticky point about taxing, having a quote unquote income tax, is when it comes to corporations. Of course, we're not taxing capital. We're not taxing corporate profits. Now, I'm not personally, do not think taxing corporate profits in Bermuda is a good idea. But we can significantly increase the revenue that we're earning from these companies in Bermuda, the larger companies in Bermuda, by increasing the fees that we charge them and the corporate licensing fees. That's exactly what Cayman has done. And today, the corporate sector in Cayman provides 60% of the government revenue. They don't have a payroll tax down there. They tax rents. They have a tax on leases, and they have very large customs duties like we do. But 60% of the revenue is coming from the corporate sector in fees and licenses.
A couple of questions from the audience want to get to as we're running out of time. Rosalind Famous is asking, what are some of the public policies that Seed think tank is advocating?
Well, this is one of them. Comprehensive tax reform. We're going to be advocating a whole range of them. I also sit on the Cost of Living Commission. I also sit on the Living Wage Commission. I'm in favor, of reform in both areas. and we're going to be advocating for that. We need a significant economic recovery plan, which neither party has really produced yet. So we're going to be talking about that. And one of the changes that we'd like to see and that we're going to be advocating for is that we get the public involved in some of the key decision making. I've talked about this on Facebook, and you were sort of alluding to this earlier. But yeah, this is very important. It's a big part of sustainable development. It's something that the United Nations advocates for. It's a formal part of the 17 SDGs. It's part of SDG Goal 16. And there's been severe resistance to progress made by national governments, by the national politicians around the world, because they do not want to share power with the public.
Interesting. One more question. We are out of time, but I just want to get this question out. Charles H. Jefferson II says, what are Mr. Stubbs' thoughts on an income tax versus a consumption tax?
Yeah, so we want to minimize consumption taxes as much as possible because they are highly regressive. So yeah, I think we need to move certainly to a personal income tax, and the corporate sector in Bermuda needs to be paying more. Obviously, we need to be targeting those who can afford the bigger businesses. I think we're still way too reliant on tourism. Tourism is something that we should be. I mean, I know they're giving a lot of tax breaks, but that's where a lot of Bermudian jobs are. So I think we need a fundamental shift away taxation on tourism businesses to those areas of Bermuda that are very prosperous. As I said earlier, I personally am not in favor of a corporate profit tax. I'd like to see the corporations paying.
Well, it's like I said earlier. I think sometimes we have to look at what other destinations are doing. I mean, I believe it was Bahamas or one of the tourist destinations. They actually looked at what Bermuda was doing right with tourism, and they, followed suit. I think we need to relieve ourselves of the arrogance that whatever is keeping us on that high horse and say, you know what, they're doing something right. It's working. Let's see what they're doing and let's see if it can work for us. I think that would be something. One last question before you go. Philip Truck, he's asking, where can we get more info on Seed? I want to see these reports. How can people connect with you and get more information?
Okay, so we have a website, seedbda.com. There's a little bit of information there. We hope to come out with a public program in a couple of months. It's still in the works, and there'll be a significant increase in the website. We post daily at the moment to the Seed's Facebook group, Seed Bermuda. Yeah, when it comes to reports, I mean, I'd love to come back and talk more about this whole communications and social media, and it's all having a huge impact on think tanks. One of the problems we face is people don't read anymore.
How often do I say on this show?
What's the point of reports if people aren't going to read them?
Correct. No,
we are going to produce some reports, but we're going to keep that to an absolute minimum. It's going to be online. And it's much more of the research needs to be actually presented, and then, as you were suggesting earlier, using video clips, and distributed on social media, and get the communication experts.
The attention spans are much shorter. So short clips with information. Again, we have to go where people are. Robert Stubbs, thank you so much. We have to run. We are out of time. But again, I think we should have you back probably next month, especially before the drone speech is given, to have another discussion. It's a lot more depth we can go in, and I appreciate you sharing the slides because we're a visual people as well. Let's reconnect. Let's have you back sooner rather than later to continue this conversation.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and you guys do a great job.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Appreciate it. The conversation. Give him a thumbs up, a love, a like. Please share these conversations, folks. Like, it's information that's accessible. All we're
Bridging the
doing
gap.
using our platform to do exactly what Sherry just said. Bridge that gap. And I really appreciate Robert Stubbs for trusting our platform. Give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share it. We're going to take a quick break. We're coming back. We're going to have some fun when we come back. Stick with us.
A lot happens around your home. That is why at One Communications, we have introduced affordable security and video monitoring, because everyone should be able to afford to protect their family. Anytime, from anywhere, One Home Security keeps you connected and puts security in your hands with an easy-to-use smartphone app to control everything. Home security is important to keep you and your family safe. Motion-activated cameras around your home and security monitoring within create a complete security system providing protection both inside and outside your home. Professional monitoring means that there's someone on call with 24/7 protection to notify the authorities and help keep you and your loved ones safe. We are dedicated to whole home protection with indoor and outdoor cameras, smart door locks, motion sensors, and more, so you'll always be connected to what matters most. With professional installation, no upfront hardware fees, and low monthly rates, because keeping your family safe should be affordable for everyone. Total home video monitoring and security, there's no better way to protect your home than with One Home Security.
All right. Thanks again to One Communications, People's Pharmacy, Medical House and Indoors. Thanks again to Robert Stubbs for stopping by with that information. If you appreciated the conversation, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you are sharing these conversations. It's for us. It's our community. Time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Heineken 0.0. Great taste, no alcohol, and Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. Sherry, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, it's music today. A little different. Here we go. Which magazine did Biggie Smalls read?
Word Up.
All right, I got another one. This a getter, folks. This a getter. Hold on. Help her out because she might not get this one wrong, right? Aunt Karen said Jet Magazine. No.
Jet Karen?
Here we go. According to the song by Carlos Santana and the product GMB, where was Maria from?
Maria. West Side. Story. Oh my gosh. Played by Carlos Santana. I can't remember.
And up in Spanish Harlem.
Oh, Spanish Harlem. But I had the right song. I was in the right church.
Spanish Harlem. Somebody I this is California. All right. No, Spanish Harlem. All right, folks. Thanks again to Robert Stubbs. We got Santiago Wilson Davis as always a guest. I mean, you know.
People.
Yeah, Spanish Harlem.
Know the song.
Spanish Harlem. Not sure if California and Santiago were mentioned. Sherry, final thoughts on today's show. What you got?
Well, I do believe, Jamal, that they are kind of both the same, right? When we're talking about bridging the gap in regards to generations, understanding information and what is being put out there, being able to have an informed conversation. I think Robert kind of goes into that whole mix because he is one of those people that provide that information that we need to know, and being able to bridge the two outside of Facebook or other social medias and being able to have that conversation. So I think they're one and the same. I definitely think they were great conversations to have, and I definitely need to have a video tutorial of what Robert's got going on.
No, I concur.
It was a lot.
I think the conversations are related. And again, we just came up with that topic right before the show because we were actually going to be discussing something else that probably was even more related to what Robert Stubbs was talking about. But that said, I think part of it is, and I know it takes a lot of work because Sherry, I'm going to be honest with you. Our minds, like I read a study, our minds are not supposed to be on all these different platforms. Like,
no,
if you're facing stress, put your phone down, like for things you don't need it for. If it's not a phone call or something, put it down. the way our minds are going from one social media platform to another, from one news to another news platform, we were not made to be those individuals. So I think we have to meet people where they are. If the audience you're trying to target is on TikTok or LinkedIn or Instagram, then you create stuff for them. Maya's not everywhere. She doesn't treat Facebook like she does Instagram. So that's a case, or LinkedIn, for instance. So we got to keep that in mind. I appreciate him coming, and I really do hope people share the information that was discussed. You got the daily inspiration for us?
I do. We need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we'll screw up royally sometimes. Understanding that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. And that's from Ariana Huffington.
I love that. I love it. The Huff. Thanks again to all partners, Medical House, One Communications, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy, for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow, folks. Do not forget, go on our website. I'm just quite sure I want an explanation. If you haven't become a member of TDH community yet, why haven't you?
Not an explanation.
We're trying to help you all. We want to help our community. We're trying to literally help you address the concerns of today. She's Sherry Vanderpool. I'm Jamel Hartman, my friends. Make it a safe and a great day. We are out. Peace.